so proudly wave at the twilight's last gleaming.
Nice shades.
I am dressed up like some kind of Secret Service agent because this poem goes all the way to the top, Kate. We are dealing with the executive level.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I've had the national anthem stuck in my head like for the last 2 days. I'm at the dentist like being like,
I actually didn't know like 98% of the lyrics to the national anthem. So
I know.
it was a good learning experience.
I thought, when you proposed this poem, I was thinking, oh, this has been talked about like a bunch. And so I was worried that maybe we were going to be like redundant, but now I see why. There's so much to talk about. So I'm wicked excited. I just got back from the old dentist.
Oh, how are the teeth?
The teeth are fine. But I was, no, I hate the dentist so much. Like, I really do. It's like, it feels so invasive to me. And the weirdest part about it to me is like every single time, like I almost break out laughing every single time when they start like flossing my own teeth. It's like, it just feels so like weirdly intimate.
Yeah,
It's so
it is.
It's like, I feel like it's like you go to the doctor and you pee in a cup and then they like wipe for you like afterwards. Like, it's just weird. Like, I can do this myself. This is silly.
I have like a terrible, terrible gag reflex.
You do.
Like, I can't, I was getting some work done a few years ago and they have these like things that they put in your mouth to hold your mouth open. And I could not do it. I just had to like sit with my mouth open for like 3 hours on my own willpower. As soon as they try to put it like in my mouth, I'm like, "What?" Like the whole time. I'm like, I can't do it.
I know, and I like my jaw gets so tired. I'm not a jaw open girl.
No,
No,
they
but
don't need to hear that.
tense too. Like I can feel it in the air. Can you like feel it? Like it's fucking tense.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, day before election. Yeah, we should let people know we're recording this the day before the election. So
People
this will
watch
be.
it, we might actually know like the other side of all of this.
Lydia took Wednesday off. Just have a day for either direction. We'll see what happens.
Lydia, I have a mammogram scheduled for Wednesday. So
Why would you do
like
that?
Trump wins and I get my boobs crushed in a machine.
Yeah.
Like
your soul can feel the way your boobs will feel on Wednesday. All right. Well, should we get this party started the day before what may be the end of democracy? Everybody, welcome to Table for Deuce, where we shoot the shit about all things lit. I am Michael Schmeltzer, here with Kate Hanson Foster, as usual, co-host, co-editor of The Seat, Poetry and Reviews, the journal that we do, co-founder, co-everything for what we do here. Kate is the author of Midriff, which was a finalist for the Massachusetts Center for the Book Award. She is most recently the author of Crow Funeral. And she writes, she edits, she gets fellowships, she parents, she spouses, all around rock star. And this year, Kate, for Halloween, actually dressed up as another literary figure, Rattle's very own editor, Tim Green, where as part of the costume, she carried around 24 books about the CIA and the various secret operations they run to control the country. So welcome, everybody, Kate Hanson Foster. Love you.
Tim Green.
Love you, Tim.
I look to him for advice on life all the time. Tim Green's just, he knows it all.
Just the sheer confidence and knowledge that he carries.
Mm-hmm.
And no, but in all seriousness, man can edit.
Yeah.
Can edit a poem.
He can.
Really.
I really
going for
great
him.
taste. Great taste.
Yeah, indeed.
Nice guy.
We'll see if he's nice after we make fun of him, because I will definitely tag him.
They don't know this, but like we see them as our podcast rivals. So
Yeah,
only
we're coming.
bring it up that It's on. We
We're
see
coming
them.
after them. Yeah.
Yeah, we see them and it's on. I'm here with Michael Schmeltzer, author of several books of beautiful, gorgeous poetry, including Bloodsong, Empire of Surrender. He's not just a brilliant writer, but a fabulous friend, husband, father, most recently dog walker. And anyways, I was just thinking about Table for Deuce like around this time last year. And I don't know if people remember this about you, that you kind of like to thematically change your OnlyFans account to like dance, right? So like or kind of like around Christmas time last year, you did naked Christmas tree wrestling, right? That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and
Painful and took some recovery, but
I was so excited to hear about your new OnlyFans theme centered around Thanksgiving. You know, unfortunately, Halloween is past, but you told me that your new show or your new account is featuring bottomless Thanksgiving baking. I
it is possibly even more dangerous than wrestling the Christmas trees.
Yes, and I just now that I've, told our audience and they want to find it, I do have the keyword search that will get you there. And it's bare legs and butterballs.
That is amazing.
It is
Well,
actually. And
well done.
I cannot wait to watch.
I'm pretty popular on the other side of the internet, not gonna lie. Goodness gracious, Kate.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ah, all right. Well, I am excited for today's poem. It seems appropriate for kind of this time. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've read this poet. We may as well I'm just gonna announce it right away. The poem is a new national anthem by Ada Limón, the current poet laureate of the United States. I've read her books before. I've enjoyed them. I had not read this poem, however. I haven't read the book from which the poem is from. The book is from The Carrying, out from Milkweed Editions. I believe that came out in 2018. But I hadn't read that book, and I hadn't read this poem. It seemed like one that is perfect for the pre-election day kind of discussion.
It was a good read, and I can't wait to talk about it. So we should
Yeah.
get
Should
on.
we let's get into this. Let's keep this efficient and smooth. Yeah, we will go into the toast or roast of a new national anthem by Poet Laureate of the US, top dog, Ada Limón.
Oh, no.
So, a new national anthem by Ada Limón. The truth is, I've never cared for the national anthem. If you think about it, it's not a good song. Too high for most of us with the rockets' red glare. And then there are the bombs. Always, always there is war and bombs. Once I sang it at homecoming and threw even the tenacious high school band off key. But the song didn't mean anything, just a call to the field, something to get through before the pummeling of youth. And what of the stanzas we never sing? The third that mentions no refuge could save the hireling and the slave. Perhaps the truth is, every song of this country has an unsung third stanza, something brutal snaking underneath us as we blindly sing the high notes with a beer sloshing in the stands, hoping our team wins. Don't get me wrong, I do like the flag, how it undulates in the wind like water, elemental, and best when it's humbled, brought to its knees, clung to by someone who has lost everything. When it's not a weapon, when it flickers, when it folds up so perfectly you can keep it until it's needed, until you can love it again, until the song in your mouth feels like sustenance, a song where the notes are sung by even the ageless woods, the short grass plains, the Red River Gorge, the fistful of land left unpoisoned. That song, that's our birthright. That's sung in silence when it's too hard to go on. That sounds like someone's rough fingers weaving into another's. That sounds like a match being lit in an endless cave. The song that says my bones are your bones, and your bones are my bones. And isn't that enough? New National Anthem by Ada Limón. All right, well, I will kick off the discussion since this was my choice. And I was just saying earlier, I hadn't actually paid hardly any attention to the national anthem, like lyrically in its own right. Wasn't even aware that there were that many like lines in that thing. Like I would only, and I think most of us have only consistently heard the first verse of that song. So it was really interesting to go through the actual national anthem and see kind of what it's about and the other lines. And you kind of forget the history of the national anthem itself, and kind of you hear like the elementary school version of like, oh, it was written because it was the flag was still there and then bombs. But really just how fascinating it is to get back to the roots of what the national anthem is and what it actually is saying, and kind of the reference points and the context of it was really kind of good for me to go through again. One of the things I really enjoy about this poem is you never know with poems that might be political, whether or not it's going to be pretty didactic and soapboxy and things like that. So with a poem like A New National Anthem, I can definitely see different kind of writers taking it in a very different direction, to the point of where it feels like I'm being lectured to rather than being involved and pulled into a poem. So I was a little not weird, like leery or weary or scared or any of that stuff, but there was a little sense that like, okay, where's this poem going to go? And that's definitely my own bias. Like I have a little bit of a love-hate with political poems in some sense. Like when it's done well, it's so good. And when it's done bad, I just think it's one of the most boring things you could possibly talk about. So, but yeah, I was surprised and pleasantly surprised that this was more complex than just a certain one-sided, one heavily leaning towards this or that type of poem. So yeah, I just thought that was very, very good and surprising and nuanced in a lot of ways.
I agree with you. I can totally relate to hearing the national anthem and feeling absolutely like nothing. Like
Yeah.
the lyrics mean nothing. Like there's no like it does not strike in me the patriotism that it does
Mhm.
for others. And like you, I agree. A poem titled like A New National Anthem is kind of like, whoa, okay. I guess I would call most of the poems that I think about in terms of like recent contemporary political poems more like protest poems. Not the kind that's
Mhm.
going to strike that chord of unity and patriotism, but more
Mhm.
like complaining. And I don't know, but I also didn't read this poem as a proposition of being
Mhm.
new anthem, more like just lamenting how much ours like sucks. uh, the national anthem to me is like it's kind of a weird uh game of like, okay, who's gonna sing it? Like, who's it gonna
Mhm.
be? Are they gonna botch it? Like Fergie, like just the worst ever of all time by like a celebrity.
Yeah.
Um, but then there's like, I don't know if you remember this, but it made me think about the Whitney Houston version, which was like early 90s. Whitney Houston did a version of it and she fucking nailed it. Like it was so beautiful. Like we need to just throw anyone else away who wants to sing it. Like it was, and like that one get like I actually because it made me remember it. So I did while
Mhm.
I was waiting for you to finish to get ready for the
Yeah.
podcast. I was like, I'm gonna pull up that video and like watch it again and again. Chills. Like it is beautiful. And it's not the words.
Hmm.
It's the performance of it. It is a challenging
Hmm.
song. I feel like there's something about, and this is what I think that uh the poem discusses too, that it's kind of like the feeling that you feel in that moment is it's less about the words, about the meaning of the words. It's about like the unity of like everyone having this shared experience in, an arena, all together. And there's just that kind of like unsaid feeling of what that shared experience is. I guess the last line of the poem, like, isn't that enough? It's like, to me, when I hear like the Whitney Houston version, I'm like, that's enough. That's just like surface level on the song, whatever. But to agree with you, like, I didn't know about these other stanzas because this was like
Yeah.
originally a poem.
Hmm.
And I also didn't know that Francis Scott Key was like a slave owner and like an
Oh.
anti-abolitionist and stuff. So like
Hmm.
the irony is, crazy. Um and so I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can see how so many people feel like a historical disconnection. It's like I don't feel a connection to those words. And they're so detached from my lived experience. I'm surprised because I also didn't realize just how young the national anthem is. Like to be officially, like when it was declared the official national anthem, it was like post World War One. It's like, okay, yeah, we can get a new one. It's new enough. Let's switch it out.
It's the 21st century. Let's get on with this. But no, I do like speaking of like people butchering the song though, I mean, I think was it Roseanne? I think did at the like a Major League Baseball game and just and I mean, I don't know what they were expecting. It's not like Roseanne's a singer, but that was also, but I feel like so there's the intentional butchering, there's the I tried but I butchered it via Fergie, and then the actual I can actually sing this song. I love the line in this poem about if you think about it, it's not a good song. And I just like too high for most of us. I love that there's that critique of it just as art rather than like a critique of like some other kind of like vision or some other kind of message, but it's just art as art and critiquing it being like, yeah, it's just not a good song. And I definitely kind of feel that. Like on the scale of things that make me feel patriotic, it's like I always felt really, really awkward as a kid doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I hated pledging to things that just didn't really make
Dang.
sense to me. That made me feel weird. National Anthem was like the next step above where I'm like, at least it has music. So that was nice, but still couldn't connect with it, didn't really feel anything. And I have a weird relationship with like patriotism in general because my dad was in the Navy. So I'm like, I have very, very soft, fond feelings for like people in uniform in the military because that's what I grew up around. But at the same time, it's like, oh, you get older and you get much more knowledgeable about what is actually happening at a, government level and a country level where it's like, oh, okay, they're, I still have a lot of respect for people in uniform, but the higher up the chain you go, the less respect I seem to have, I guess. I don't know where I'm going with this exactly, other than the fact that like patriotism and the national anthem and Pledge of Allegiance and all this stuff have very kind of mixed, complicated feelings for me. So I love that this kind of goes into that and is also able to look at the song as a song and then kind of delve into like the different verses and things like that. So I thought it was just a really interesting kind of interplay between the two.
There are some people who are so wholly like through and through patriotic, and stuck on traditions. Trotting out the national anthem, it's like busting out the fine china, like the ugly ass china grandmothers because like an event is happening, and it's like
Hmm.
it's less about like what it is, but it's the motions that make them
Hmm.
feel something. But I think you're right in the sense that, as we get older too, and we learn more about the history and just being more engaged in politics and the current cultural climate and everything, that it's difficult, I think, for some people to wholly love a country that we know does not embrace everyone in it. That kind of sentiment around these ancient words that do have an ugly backstory. And I think the poem takes such a beautiful twist with the line, perhaps the truth is every song of this country has an unsung third stanza, something brutal snaking underneath. I mean, that is just such a powerful line because it's so true. It's like, a lot of these things are, they're very polished and they're just a nice performance and stuff. But yeah, the history of this song, the poem, the third, the stanza about like, kind of not giving a shit about slaves that left to fight with the British and all that and being like, yeah, whatever, like I don't know, there is
Mhm.
there is an ugliness behind it. And I guess it also got me thinking like about most of when we feel unified, like when we feel patriotic or when we feel that sense of just true pride of being like a part of something, it always seems to come on the other side of violence, like brutality, like war,
Mhm.
and so it's kind of like 9/11. Like, remember how, like,
Yep.
after nine
Yep.
eleven, everybody, like, all of a sudden, it was just like we were all just like swelling with patriotism. And it was
Mhm.
because like something awful happened. That whole idea of the original poem was like, the only way they knew they won the war was when like they woke up in the morning and still saw the flag was there. There is this kind of feeling that comes on the other side of violence, that is just a truth, I think, that we have
Mhm.
to kind of reckon with.
I like what you're saying, and I like that. I mean, that line about that, like, third stanza, like that is one of my favorite lines of this poem. And I think that unsung third stanza, I mean, is that one line, I feel like captures a lot of the discussion in education around social justice and institutional issues over the past, like, 8 years. I feel like that line is just exactly it. It's like there are these things that have been in place that we don't pay attention to that still inform the whole. And I feel like that line just is such a good summation of that idea. And I also really like kind of when the poet talks about the uh, talking about singing it before homecoming, and it's just a call to the field, something to get through before the pummeling of youth. I think that's like such a kind of dark kind of idea, and it's like it's obviously like it's a reference to football, and we've all, I think, at least most of us probably had that experience of going to games and things like that growing up. But the idea that using a sort of patriotism as a rallying call and then having the youth pay for that patriotism is basically the military too. So it's like there's that really dark undertone to that I really enjoyed. I just thought that was such a really subtle but nice way to just get into that without having to beat us over the head with it. But yeah, like you said, there is so much kind of violence um, that is strangely unifying. Like you said, that post 9/11 world where it did kind of, we all kind of rallied around New York. And then there was the unfortunate consequences of that, which was just became like Islamophobia was running rampant. Like people that were not even Muslim were being accused of being Muslim. Like it was just such a bizarre, hate-filled time, as well as a time that the country needed to heal. And those two things seeming to always hold hands as we move past tragedies is it's awful and sad. So, but I thought this poem really did kind of get into that in some subtle ways that I thought really worked well.
It's so bizarre how the national anthem is so synonymous with sports. Like, it's so weird. But like I don't, that part I don't get. It's like, okay, you're about to play football, but first we
Mhm.
must stroke the nation's ego with like ancient stupid song. Like it's so weird. And I think, it
Yeah.
does a really good job with pointing to kind of like, the beer sloshing in the stands and,
Yeah.
a lot of, I mean, the poem talks a lot about kind of the the sports. Like
Yeah.
there's more than one reference to just kind of like the sports and the routine of it
Hmm.
all. But yeah, that the pivot into the flag,
Yeah.
I thought
Yep.
was really interesting. And I guess it is kind of like really what the song is about. Like I was saying, like the whole idea of like at the end, like the flag was still there. And we've had all these moments, at least in our lifetime, of witnessing, the rising of the flag, like among like, whatever's happening. Like not to keep referencing 9/11, but there's that like, you know, the image of like the firefighters pulling up the flag. I don't know what you thought about kind of this the switch up here because it then kind of, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of flag talk that
Yeah.
happens.
It is a lot of flag talk, but I do like that pivot a lot. I like the flag. I like the like kind of confession almost, the like the correction. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like the flag. But when they talk about it being folded and clung to by someone who has lost everything, and like I said, with the that kind of military ritual of folding the flag after someone is killed and giving that to the family, that's kind of like it's such a, I don't even know if it's like not a token of appreciation, that sounds so callous, but as a like memorial or as a like thank you for the ultimate sacrifice type of situation. And that moment always gets to me too, because like I said, I just have very like fond feelings that I probably won't ever get over, no matter how critical I can be of kind of top government sending military where they don't need to be. But just on a human individual level, the soldiers that are going and doing these things and risking their lives, I will always have a certain kind of respect for. So when hearing things like that and hearing about the flag being folded up, I think is a beautiful image and kind of ties back into whenever there is this patriotism, whenever there is this anthem, it's like there is always the backside, there's always the sacrifice, and it's never seeming to be at the top level. It's always, working class or poor or marginalized. It's always these people that are being kind of used by a larger, more powerful system. That word humbled, I think is a great word when used here, when talking about the flag. And I think as a nation, it would be good to be humbled in the sense that we should understand exactly what we're sacrificing when we have this kind of power. I thought it was beautiful. I thought a lot of this, the second half or the ending parts of this poem were really well done. And it sort of picks up the pace with a lot of these, like it's almost, I think, just one long run-on sentence if I remember it correctly. Like I don't even think there's a period. It's like after the point where it says, beer sloshing in the stands, hoping our team wins. I think it just goes right on all the way to the end here. And I thought that was really good. I thought it created this momentum to the poem that I just thought was really, really well done.
I think it also speaks to the challenge like of actually having a single like a national anthem, just
Mhm.
like an actual like string of words that is supposed to unify everybody and it's almost impossible. And I think in an America in a today America that is so multicultural, um, the flag as a symbol is maybe a little bit more welcoming where you can kind of put your own interpretation into like what that means for you. Okay, this is just like a sidebar story. But when I
Mhm.
was driving in I was driving from North Carolina home from a writing thing this summer. And I had to drive through like a lot of southern states. And I think I was probably West Virginia, I don't remember. There was a Confederate flag that was like I was on the highway, so it was just like did I tell you this story? I feel like I may have told you this, but
You may have. Not
Okay.
sure though.
Well, so it was just trees and road.
Mhm.
Like there was nothing there. So it was like the intention of putting this humongous, I mean, I'm talking like it was like the size of a freaking house, like Confederate
Yeah.
flag that was just like rising above the trees and it was like undulating in the wind and
Mhm.
everything. And I was amazed at the visceral reaction that I had to it, like of disgust. I couldn't even name like the way that it was flowing, the way that it was it was almost like in slow motion and it was so big and it was so cinematic in a weird way. And
Mhm.
I wanted to throw up, like it made me feel so uncomfortable and it was just like this unnameable reaction. And I guess I'm speaking from the other side of things of just
Mhm.
how much a symbol can really affect you. And so I think just to kind of take it back to the like good flag, the better flag.
Yeah.
I can see why that somebody like in the descriptions of, that it's like water,
Mhm.
elemental, like the way it's,
Uh-huh.
and humbled when it's brought to its knees, and all these different symbolic ways in which we embrace the flag, whether it's like you said, veterans and
Yeah.
after war and cemeteries and or whatever, just Fourth of July and all this
Mhm.
stuff, that we can kind of use that symbol to kind of wholly encompass what America means to us like as individuals and kind of take our
Mhm.
own meaning of it and our own ownership of it. And this is why I feel like the sort of list that comes after it is it's it's sort of general but also specific. It's a lot of landscape images of ageless woods, short grass plains, Red River Gorge, fistful of land unpoisoned. And it's just kind of like laying out a landscape of all these different, just it's the place we live. It's like it's our shared lived experience, and a lot of that really truly is just landscape. And the rough fingers weaving into each other. It just felt like, we're talking about like the real nitty gritty Americans, like the real
Mhm.
Americans, people that are working the land, living on the land, living that kind of working class experience. And I loved that final twist with sort of, I mean, I don't know if this was intentional, but my bones are your bones and your bones are my bones. Like this land
Yeah.
is
Yep.
my
It
bones,
has to
your
be,
bones,
right? It's gotta
your
be.
bones are my bones. We're in this together.
Yeah.
And isn't that enough? Like that we don't need the song, that we have
Mhm.
like all of these other unsung things that like there's just no way to put a word to it. And that is more meaningful, I think, than if someone were to go for a new national anthem. Like we need a redo. Like let's get it. Like it's kind of like I don't know. And I think she's right. It's like I don't think it's possible. I don't think we could. Like we could have a write a new national anthem challenge. Like would anyone
Mhm.
really get it right?
Yeah, and it feels like a challenge like that is like the poets that have had to tackle the inauguration poems. It's like striking that balance between, you know, actually looking at something realistically and accurately, but also writing it for the moment. And it is a hard bargain to really do that well. So, but yeah, I have no doubt that the last couple lines had to be a reference to Woody Guthrie, "This land is your land," and that song in general too just feels like such a more I'm not sure if inclusive is the right word, but it's definitely less violent. Like we were talking about, it's like always on the other side of war or violence, then comes this kind of unity or unification. And to have a different song, like what would that mean for a country to have a song that isn't based on "we beat you, hence we have freedom"? Like if it's a song based on something more about like unity through peace and not unity through war, like well, how would that change the national identity and what that means to be American? And so I think there is just like a history of violence in America, and that violence gets turned into this notion of heroism or freedom. Like you can't have freedom without violence. I think there are people that genuinely believe that. And I think that idea, I used to think is primarily a kind of right-leaning idea. I think that's also becoming just an all-around idea people are starting to adopt into their own ideologies, and that is terrifying to me.
Or just
So,
normalizing this idea that we're always threatened by something. I mean,
yeah.
this idea of trotting out this kind of song
Hmm.
to is just so outdated. It really is. And I think that that's
Hmm.
like if you're going to do this, if you want to have this kind of like national anthem, like it should be timeless. It all feels dated. And and like I said, I mean, even for someone like me, just like some ordinary white woman, with like lots of American history in my life, in my blood, but not so much that I really feel connected to, or patriotic about. And that's kind of sad. I'm of two minds when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I do feel like some things written, um, different vernacular or different whatever it may be, like stories, I don't know. um I do believe in like reclaiming things and redefining things, and I think that does happen naturally in a lot of ways, that we can insert our own meaning into the same song, or we can change the meaning of this horrible word and make it like a term of endearment or whatever. Like I do kind of believe in that, and there's like real power in that. And then I also believe in like just kind of letting things be history, and embrace change as you like something new, a new idea, something fresh. But it's striking that balance, I guess, between like the ugliness of like the undercurrent of our American lives and the possibility of all the like the way America will be and become in like the future.
I was going to hop on your last comment about talking about kind of people's attachments to the song or this idea. And I think, like you were saying, you can take something and make it a term of endearment despite its like hateful history, or you can kind of abandon and move on and let things stay in the past. I think a lot of the issues people seem to have is that, like, in order to actually love something, you have to be able to see the good and the bad of something. And that is a way to actually be patriotic, is to love the country, knowing its flaws, knowing its strength, and working to make it better. And I think there's always that conflict that people seem to have. And it's like, you critique the national anthem, it's like all of a sudden you hate America and you're not a patriot, and et cetera, et cetera. Get out of our country, all this kind of bullshit. But really, like, to love something is you do want it to become better and you do want it to improve and fix what is wrong with it. And I think this poem is a very good example of how to look at something and have certain kind of interesting personal connections to it. Like the poet talks about singing it at homecoming and talks about the flag. So there's always this relationship that we do have to a nation or to the anthem or to the flag, and talking about it in a different way and critiquing it without being like a traitor to your nation, you know? So I think a lot of this poem is just kind of about that balance, and I think it's balanced really well. Should we toast or roast this puppy?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I will go first as it is my pick. Day before election pick. I on a just intellectual level, thinking about the anthem and what it brings up and what a new one would look like, I think this poem just really ticked all those boxes for me. It really was fun to think about. It really was fun to think about my own relationship with the country and the flag and the anthem. And just on a craft level, the pacing I really, really loved. Like the lines are broken up in a way that doesn't keep my mind like my mind is not able to wander. I'm stuck in this poem. The rhythms are fun. The words work. Like you said, that how it undulates in the wind like water, elemental. Like it really does conjure that image of the flag or any flag blowing in the wind. Like you can really see it. I love the kind of nostalgia of homecoming and high school bands and all that stuff. It brings a personal kind of moment and memories into a poem that's about something so much bigger. So for me, and then the way it ended too, like you said, that's most likely that reference to Woody Guthrie and This Land and Your Bones and My Bones and all that stuff, I really think strikes like a really good balance between understanding our history and being critical, and at the same time thinking that there is, still hope, and there's still a way forward, and there's still a new song that we can sing as a nation, whether or not it is the actual like official anthem or not. Like, we can find unity through different ways, and I think this poem does an excellent job of talking about that. So for me, I give this a big old toast. So well done. As much as I wanted to roast the poet laureate, I mean, it would have been fun, but I toast it. It is
I
a
know.
well done poem.
I'm so glad that we did, like, we picked a kind of a poem that fits right into what's happening around us, because it did make me think about all these things, I guess, that certain realities that about what it is to be an American in today's cultural landscape. And there is a very distinct separation between people embracing multiculturalism and then the people who are just absolute diehard nationalists. And I'm kind of, I don't know, it gave me more of a post-nationalism sort of way of thinking that, like, it's not like the lived experience isn't just about your town, your state, your country. There is a more global thing that makes us human, that isn't just about like this kind of blind loyalty, that feels almost religious in a way. That,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's very bizarre to me, and I love the way this poem very, very humbly, very subtly, um, kind of brings that to the forefront, and really pointing out things that, like you said, and that no one, some things become so baked into the pie of our existence that, like, you don't even think about what words mean anymore, or what certain gestures,
Mhm.
just some of these routines that are just, they're muscle memory things, but we don't really, for a lot of us, it just doesn't have that profoundness,
Mhm.
except in the case of Whitney Houston, which was extremely profound. And stand by that if there is going to be a national anthem, they should just play the Whitney Houston version every single time, because that was incredible. But anyways, it did make me think, just thinking a lot about how, like, we glorify war, that, like, that we see like bombs bursting in air as
Yep.
like the way it's sung as if it is beautiful. And that is fucked. Like, that is so fucked. And I think, I love how much it got me thinking about that, and thinking about just, like we've already talked about, just this idea that, so much of how we unify as a country or as people is like after tragedy. And that is also kind of fucked, and so I don't know. I think it's not so much a call for a new national anthem, but maybe like a call for a newer understanding of how we can feel united, and how we can love where we live and feel like it is a land for everyone. And I have to toast it. I think it's a very special poem, and it doesn't surprise me it's talked about so much. I think it's taught often in classes now, and I think that's a testament to, just, as a very free verse prose poem, with not a lot of frills and bows
Mhm.
and over the
Yep.
top metaphors and all this stuff. It kind of just cuts straight to the point, in a very
Mhm.
beautiful way. And so I definitely toast this poem for sure. So good choice.
Yeah. Yay. And just to keep it sassy, the line in the parentheses, always, always, there's war and bombs. I hate that line.
Well, you know, I could
it's
say
so worthless.
the idea of like the truth is starting it like the truth is, you know, I'd cut that too. You know, that just felt like throat clearing, you know,
There's,
like
there's a couple. Yeah, there's a few.
yeah.
That's and they're so few and far between for the poem. I just being petty, but
No,
just had to. I just had to.
It's not worth it. I think this is one of those times where we let it be.
That's right. So,
So,
all right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to us talk about a new national anthem by Ada Limón from the book The Carrying, out from Milkweed Editions. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at table4deuce@gmail.com. And we hope we'll see you on the other side of this election and we're not arrested or anything like that. So here we go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've pissed off both sides throughout our lives. So, I mean, I don't know who's coming for me.
We're enemies from within that they're coming for. Oh,
it's actually Tim Green coming for me. It's just Tim.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Oh,
I heard butterballs. Oh my gosh. Just immediately like hated it. She sucks.
Are you sure you're not just hiding a black eye under there? Or is it?
No.
There you are.